From the arena to the front office, this is Scoreboard. I'm Chris Titley, and each episode brings you stories from the game of sport, where mindset, money, and meaning shape what comes next. Athletes, coaches, owners, and business leaders unpack the moments that matter, because the Scoreboard isn't just about winning, it's about life beyond the game. Now let's get to this week's episode.
Hi, it's Chris Titley here, and on today's episode of Scoreboard, the podcast, I'm joined by Rebecca Frizelle. Rebecca, thank you so much for being part of this series. Hi,
Chris. Thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to chatting.
Now, Rebecca or Beck? What do you reckon? What should I call you?
Beck.
Go Beck, the informal Beck. Now, Beck, we're sitting here on the 19th of May, believe it or not, 2025. How's your morning? How's your weekend been?
Look, I had a lovely weekend. How can it not be anything but fabulous when you're on the Gold Coast? But marred a little bit with, marred a lot with Sunday's result yesterday in Canberra against the Raiders. So that was a disappointment, but we push on and we learn and we get better.
Absolutely. And I think there's a bye next week, so maybe a little refresh for the Titans and then on to face the Storm, who are coming off a loss as well. And, yeah, this year, we're just talking about this before the podcast, this year's NRL is wide open, right?
I think it's an incredible series at the moment because never have you had the teams all so close. And when you look at it, the middle of the pack are literally one game away from the top of the pack. So it's anyone's series. I think in years gone by, we've been used to seeing the traditional winners up there, the Storm, Penrith, Roosters, dominating year after year. You could almost pick who was going to be in there. And at the moment, it's wide open, which makes for a great series for everyone.
And then you think, you go, the Cowboys, they can't lose at home. They lose at home. And then you're like, oh, wow, Canberra's good at home. And New Zealand have come in there. They're flying as well. So it's very wide open. Prediction for the year, where do you hope your team finishes now?
Look, I'm still hopeful of a top 8. People would laugh and go, you're not going to get there. But I'm a great believer in hope, and there's a huge amount of effort and training going on in the background. We've been beset by, as has a lot of seasons, so it's certainly not an excuse, but it's a reality. We've had 1.5 times our spine out throughout the year with injury, and we only saw them on the weekend coming back. Sunday was the first time Kieran Foran played all season. For example, we lost Tino for a big chunk at the start of the season with the suspension. We had Jaden out. We've had AJ out. We've had AJ in. We've had a number of them out. So yesterday was the first time they all kind of got to play together, and hopefully we can build on that. Origin will interrupt that reading the list. Congratulations to Bo for Moore and Mo and Tino, 3 of our players all announced in the Origin. We're super proud of them and they deserve those positions. But, a bit of disruption.
Beck, your association with the Gold Coast Titans dates back, I believe, to 2006 when your company became a sponsor. So it's coming up to 20 years. Looking back at 2006 and the journey thus far, how did you describe it?
It's a roller coaster. It's the gift that just keeps on giving. You know what? I'm incredibly proud of the team. Our on-field results certainly aren't what we've believe we're capable of. However, what we deliver off the field is extraordinary, and I think we've been growing with the Gold Coast. We have significant competition around us, but competition only makes us stronger. We have an extraordinary AFL club in the Suns just down the road, and they're doing a terrific job. They have a very different funding model to ours, and then we have a behemoth such as the Broncos up the road, which are publicly listed, hugely successful entities. So we're needing to really grow our grassroots, focus on our pathways, focus on our community, and what we're doing off the field to bring hearts and minds with us on the journey. We will get success. It takes time, though. And when you're dealing with such a competitive environment, not only within our game, but external to our game, it makes it pretty tough, particularly when, in terms of being able to be a decision maker in the club, that's only been really since we took ownership in 2018. So it takes a while to build on that.
Absolutely. And you talked about competition outside. You're talking other codes as well, and AFL and rugby union and soccer and football, etc. Back in 2006 when you decided to sponsor the club, what was the mainstream, I suppose, then? I know AFL was obviously very popular, but it's sort of gone like this. Union's probably...
Well, there was no club on the coast. Yeah, the Titans were it. And so it was a huge club at that point. Not when I say huge, but huge support from the community, because it was the Gold Coast first national I shouldn't say that. They weren't the first national team. I guess the first really broadly popular sport in terms of a national team, because we'd had, I think, soccer here previously, etc. And we'd had the Seagulls and the Chargers in the previous iterations. But under this entity of the new ARLC, this was the first. So I have complete faith. We're very excited about the future. We've just announced our high performance centre being custom built for us that we will own. We've got expansion plans underway in terms of external revenue streams for the club, which we'll do out at Robina near the stadium. Our fans deserve a clubhouse, so to speak, and we're intent on delivering that. But our first priority is to get our state-of-the-art high performance centre built, which will have 2 fields, one for women and one for men. We'll have all the facilities we need. We'll have indoor courts available as well for our women's netball teams. So we're really looking forward to that. We should hopefully be turning soil by the end of the year.
That's amazing. And just touching on that, your group also has an ownership stake or majority ownership stake in the netball team as well as the NRLW team. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yep.
So with this new facility at the moment, we have one field that we can use, which just doesn't work for us with our training schedules with the women and the men, and it's hard for the field to stand up to that as well. Where we're going, we'll have 2 fields. So one dedicated to our NRLW side, who started training the other week and are looking great already. It's great to see the girls back. And one dedicated to the men's side, which will be fantastic, as well as having the netballers all housed in the one HPC, which will be fantastic.
And your relationship with sport and interest in sport, when did that come about?
Well, my friends will make fun of me because I'm the furthest person from an athlete you'd ever hope to meet. I shouldn't.
Well, I used to do a little bit of schoolboy sport, and people see my name on the wall. Is that the same bloke now? I'm like, yeah. What happened to him?
I think I was a long distance runner in about grade 8 or 9. That's about, and maybe goal attack in netball or something once. I don't know. Probably got thrown off the courts. That's my claim to fame. But for me, it's always been community based. I absolutely see what the power of sport does, and sport to me unites people. It doesn't matter your background, where you're from, your colour, your creed, whoever you are, for that period in time, you're all on the same page. And I think it just removes everything else. That white noise goes away, that background noise, and you're all unified. And I think sport has the power to change lives, outcomes, and what a city or community can truly look like. Look what's happening with Brisbane 32 right now. Brisbane will never look the same again post 32, and it'll be a legacy that lives on 20 plus years. And we talk about 20 plus 20. The immediate legacy is 20, but it's going to be 40 years. Barcelona is still living its legacy.
And did you ever think that you would be in sport from a business point of view as you were growing up and sort of interest in business?
No, frankly, I didn't. I looked at sport back in the early 2000s. I was always interested. I've always followed sport, but I looked at it as an opportunity to leverage and promote your business because I could see how much sport resonated, particularly in Australia. So to me, that was a very good way to promote your business whilst also supporting sport, because particularly back in those days, sport wasn't generating the revenues that it deserved, and the athletes weren't either. And so this was a way, it had a double-edged outcome for us. And then I think, like anybody, once you start getting engrossed in a sport, you can't help but fall in love with it and become passionate about it and see the opportunity that exists with it. And you get hooked on it.
And with the sponsorship now, looking at the ownership group now and where the Titans are, how important is it to have good sponsors, long-term sponsors that are feeling the passion and getting involved and also telling their friends and telling their clients, etc., to get that domino effect?
It's absolutely critical, and we are so lucky with our group of sponsors. They are loyal, they're passionate, they're understanding, they're intelligent, and they've got the same dream that we have. They want to see the team succeed, and it will. It absolutely will. And like any success, it just takes time, absolutely time. The club has been to the finals in 4 times since it was started in 18 years. We've got to do better than that. We've got to be a regular appearer, but we will do that. The girls were in the grand final, the NRLW, in their first 2 years. We have every intent of improving upon that, and we certainly will. Our netball girls in the Ruby and Sapphire series both teams played in the grand final last year. So we certainly have a winning culture. It's about pulling it all together and pulling the right levers in a really competitive space.
And Beck, I was chatting to Christine Finnegan, the CEO of the Jack Jumpers, and talking about what success looks like as a club. And she mentioned the pillars, right? But one of the pillars was winning out of 5, I think it was. I mean, winning is important, obviously, from a public-facing point of view and potentially. But is it overly, I suppose, a big portion of what you think is successful as a club?
Look, I used to think about it differently. I've now come to the realisation, once you have all the other, I guess, foundations in place, winning drives everything. Winning is the driver, or being highly competitive. We have to get to that level of being highly competitive and in it every single time, and we're building towards that. And that is, we want to win. That's all there is to it, because everything comes off that. It makes it so much stronger. And if you're not winning but you're in it and you're competitive, then that's equally acceptable. But it's also what we're delivering in terms of the community, our school programs, our women's programs, our Indigenous programs. We're incredibly proud of our physical disability teams and our intellectual disability teams. They're extraordinary, the players that we run in that. We're one of the only teams to do that. But we've been doing that for a very long time, well before NDIS, and, we don't play in that space. We just look after these people that deserve to be playing in a team.
And the importance of building a culture and principles and values that everyone adheres to, the players adhere to, the coach, etc., and their behaviour on and off the field. How have you gone about building your own twist to your culture and what you want to see the culture of the Gold Coast Titans?
Great question, Chris. It's an evolution. Our culture is about, underlying it all is about being good people. We look for good humans first. That to us is, and I know that sounds really simplistic, but it's true. If you start with people with good values and good systems, you can build off that. So that's really important to us. And giving back. We must give back. We are not about ourselves alone. We are one part of a community. So how can we deliver back to the people of the coast and the Northern Rivers? How can we make them proud? We really want to serve our community and we want to make them proud of us, and that's our driver. And the way we'll do that is competitiveness, winning, giving back, and being an integral part of the fabric of the city.
And when it comes to player involvement in the community and becoming successful, winning on the field, there's continuity, there's a good coach, there's lots of different factors. As the owner of the business, how do you see things, and what's your input with other stakeholders, i.e. the CEO, the coach, the players, etc.?
Well, we've already had 2 phone calls this morning, so we chat every single day without fail. We catch up probably a couple of times a week. We've got a board in place and everything runs through the board. So we certainly don't overreach because no one person has all the ideas. I think you have to be very collaborative and take on board what you hear, and I listen to what people are saying and I think about it. We all do. And I think you've got to have flexibility in decisions as well. You can't be stubborn, and you really have to take on board and consider things and come up with what is the best outcome for the club. And we have many, many stakeholders. We have the media as our stakeholders, our fans are our stakeholders, our members, our sponsors. We have our players, our staff, a very broad church of stakeholders that we are listening to all the time. We have to have a positive culture internally as well. We must treat our people. To me, it doesn't matter what business you're in, people are your number one asset. And, you can be selling the best product in the world, but if you don't have the right people, it's never going to succeed. And I think unless you invest in your people and you treat your people well, you'll only have if you don't do that, you'll have a limited business career.
And when it comes to sport, though, the passion around sport, it becomes very emotional. When your team's winning, there's praise and high fives. When your team's losing or sitting at the bottom of the table, there's feedback and there's criticism and what. How do you deal with all that?
It's funny. I got asked the other day, what's the difference between a CEO of a normal business and a sporting organisation? Is there any difference? I was like, there's a huge amount of difference, because if you think about it, in a normal business scenario, the CEO can make a decision and the outside world has no idea what the decision is. And it's not a serious one. It can be just a basic one of restructuring his organisation or replacing a manager here or there. You do that in the football world, you've got to try and do it in secrecy, but there's leaks everywhere. It goes everywhere. Fortunately, our club doesn't leak. But it's such an emotionally driven sport that any decision you make has the ability to end up on the front page. So not only do you get, say, scrutinised by your shareholders in a normal organisation, you're now facing it very broadly and publicly, backlash or feedback or whatever it is. And you're right, after a win, everyone loves you, and after a loss, you may as well put a crash helmet on or pull a doona over your head and not crawl out for 24 hours.
Right, and then some of the feedback gets a bit personal, I suppose, or passionate, like, oh, they suck them all, etc. And you're like, oh, well, hold on, just calm it down, etc. How do you deal with all that?
I actually really respect it, because without the passion, if you don't have passion, you don't have care. And people being passionate tells me they care and they're engaged. It's when you don't get the feedback that you go, we've got a problem, Houston. So there's some pretty vicious stuff out there. You know what? Everyone's entitled to their opinion.
Yep. And I suppose being at Gold Coast, the centre, your story with the Gold Coast, your relationship with the Gold Coast, how important is it to have a local ownership group?
Critical. A city can't grow. If you think about the growth of a city, look at what Tasmania is trying to do with Hobart, with the jumping jacks and the AFL side, etc. They know that they can't be considered as a true city unless they've got a national team. People realise this. So as part of the growth of the Gold Coast, we must have successful national teams based here. And I'm a big believer in that. And I also look at the outcomes, the pathways that we're creating for our school kids right now, boys and girls across 3 codes, or NRLW, NRL and netball. And we have thousands. Like, we run the largest school comp in the country, bar none, for our girls' NRLW side. Same with the NRL boys. Our juniors program is massive that we're running. So what's filling that void if we're not there doing that? Keeping kids in sport is critical for giving them a pathway. They're not on the streets. They're not up to any mischievous behaviour. They're playing sport, something healthy. They're not on their computers. They're out doing something active with hopefully a pathway onto the big field. But it's building connections. They're talking. They're learning skills. They're having fun, and they're staying fit. If we're not here doing it, then who is?
Yeah, no, absolutely right. There's so many mental health benefits, which I kind of talk to people about this podcast, with kids playing sport and being out there and having fun. And it's almost like it's a life simile in regards to a team sport and any team sport.
It's a game changer. I can't tell you how many young players we've brought through, and just seeing them turning up weekend, all through the week for their training, it's their purpose. They love it. And particularly in our disability teams, these people are coming on buses from Lismore and Ballina. We call it our double header when they're playing out at the stadium. We fielded 9 of our players in the Rugby League World Cup came from our team that played over there. 9 fielded a 13 or 17 side team. Pretty extraordinary. All came out of the Gold Coast. But you see the pride in the families that these kids that once weren't even given an opportunity to play in a team, and here they are, and they love it. And they're just delightful, and I know it brings a great deal of joy, not to us just as a club, but to our players as well in both the NRL and NRLW sides. They love working with the disability teams. I think it certainly grounds you and gives you a realistic view on just how fortunate we all are.
Absolutely, and in regards to like a goal or goal setting, I know there's roadmaps and things like that. At a personal level, are you a goal setter yourself? And if so, like, is it short, medium term, long term? And where does the club sit in terms of your goals?
It's really funny you say that. I'm not someone that sits down and writes down a goal, but I know in my head where I want to be. And I know that I've got to get through, when I talk about just me personally, certain steps to get there. What's got to come first and what the drivers will be. So, yes, I do set goals, but they're realistic, and I know I've got to stage them out. And I often think about there's not always just a clear path to get to that goal. You've got to be ready to change, and there's always going to be, a hurdle that comes in front of you. And I definitely believe they make you stronger. And I tell you, with this team, nothing makes you more resilient than being in sport. And people go, oh, this is terrible or whatever. I think, oh, no, this isn't terrible. We've been through far worse, and we will learn and we get better, bigger and stronger, and we will.
And resilience, a trait of your own business life and your own life. Where do you reckon you've learnt your resilience from?
Coming out of motor industry of 31 years, you're running a big business on really tight margins. So, you'll be often running on 1 to 1.5%. You've got 1,000 people working. It's big hours. You're doing 50 to 60 hours a week, and it's a high pressure. The Australian motor industry is considered the most competitive in the world. When you look at our population base of circa 27 million, we have more brands here for that headcount than anywhere else in the world. So you're fighting for market share. It's a tough game, so you learn resilience there because you are managing on the finest of margins to keep your business alive and to keep your people employed. That teaches you resilience. It's tough. And you've got to, I remember every morning I'd head into the business and you'd be in there early and I'd think to myself, I could be having challenges at home, we had kids, all of that, everything going on in the background, a lot of pressure. And I'd think to myself, you have to lead people. So I'd park my car in the basement and I go, right, show time, and put my smiley face on and go up, because whatever I'm dealing with is irrelevant to the people that are working with me, and we're a team and we need to work together, and I need to be available to them to show leadership and provide direction. And I think one of the things I see in business today missing, and whether it's government or business, is people aren't prepared to make decisions. And you'll see people kick decisions down the road. You know what? I'll come back to you in a month. Okay, that might be okay if that's the research that's required. But you see people not wanting to be accountable for decisions. And I think that really paralyses an organisation. I think make the decision with the information and be as informed as you can. And if it's not right, then be prepared to change. That's about humility and saying, I got it wrong, let's go. But people need to know the path they're on.
Seems to me like a little bit of a correlation between decision making and leadership as well, obviously, or as a characteristic or a strong characteristic of a good leader. Have you always been a leader per se at a young age, or has it evolved over time?
I don't know whether I always had the confidence to think I was a leader. I always had a fairly forthright or clear view on what I thought was the right thing to do. And I've always stood up for what I thought was the right thing. I'm not afraid to do that. I don't know whether I saw myself as a leader, but I've always been prepared to make the decision or make the call one way or the other. The other critical piece of that is if you are making a decision, make it respectful in how you deliver it and what you're doing, because always at the end of on the opposite side of the table is another human being. And I think in all your dealings, be respectful. The news may not be good, but it's how you deliver it can make the world a difference.
Empathy is very strong. A lot of business leaders and team owners and whatever it's in this, and sports people have talked about empathy, talked about being part of understanding someone else's situation and 100%. Listening. Yeah,
I've always had a view of walk a mile in someone else's shoes, or try and think about where they're coming from and understand it, and then explaining it back to them. Why or what? But to me, respect, courtesy, I walk into a restaurant and I am constantly, I guess a word I would use is ashamed. I'll watch people talk to wait staff in such an appalling way sometimes, not all the time, where I walk in and I'll think, and I've taught our kids this, I am so grateful that someone is making my coffee. Or someone is, how fortunate am I that I'm in a position where I can sit down and order a meal and someone's going to serve me, because that doesn't happen in every part of the world, and we're a very lucky percentage of the world that get to dine out or do these things. And I know it sounds a bit naff, but it's true. Someone is serving me. Show them respect. It's a very fortunate position to be in.
I was listening to a podcast on the Howie Games, which is a lovely sports podcast, and Alex Carey was on, one of the Australian wicketkeeper, and he was saying one of his traits is make an impression every time you have an interaction with someone. And he said, like at the coffee shop, just ask the person how their day's going, right? And they'll go, oh, sorry? You go, how's your day going? And they're like, it's going really well, thank you. How's yours? And there's a bit of a conversation. All of a sudden it breaks up. It's just this personal, and to say thank you and to be grateful, etc., as opposed to like, where's my coffee? Come on, I'm busy. Yeah?
I know. It's extraordinary when you see how people speak to people. I was at a Jimmy Barnes concert last night. That was good after the game. That was a good thing.
Highs and lows of a Sunday.
highs and lows, And we did see some really good things last night too, I must say, in the game, and it was great to have the team back in terms of a lot of them being out there last night. But what I was going to say is, we were walking into the concert and one of the overzealous security guards just came out of nowhere, and I was actually walking in with the person that was hosting the concert, and the security guard in the high vis vest didn't recognise who they were, and nor should they, because everyone's the same, but just ripped into us for walking through the wrong gate and was just so aggressive. And the person that organised the concert went up and said, come over here, I want to have a word to you. I'm putting this show on, but this is irrelevant. These people are customers, and look at how you've just spoken to them. They've come in to an event, paid good money for the tickets, and you've just abused them. What goes on with these people?
No, and I'm sure as well with customers from a Titans point of view, stakeholders, right, as well. They're paying
Correct.
tickets and the cost of living's going up. So actually, if they're making
Correct.
an effort to go to a game, etc., they want to not necessarily the result, but want to have a good experience. Even the Lions lost yesterday. I went to the Gabba. Good experience, broadly speaking.
Chris, you touched on a really important point. That's really important to us. We recognise the cost for families and people to be coming to our game. We also know our biggest competitor is the beach. It's free. And to drag people away with their families to come out to a game, that's a big ask, and put their hands in their pocket when there is a financial crunch on. We are incredibly grateful for that, and we are very respectful of that. So we really put a lot of effort into making it a whole of family experience. There is so much going on in the precinct that overwhelmingly all our surveying and feedback tells us that, yes, when the team wins, and they do win there regularly, it's extraordinary, but the value for money is first class, and they're very complimentary of that. So that's something we have to keep improving and growing upon, but that is important because it's expensive, and we recognise that, and we're very grateful for that.
The basketball guests that I've spoken to talk about the game day experience and how they're altering it and tweaking it, and there's music and fireworks, etc. How have you thought about the game day experience of getting out there? I suppose the old school rugby league is a 4-20 and a couple of beers, etc. But maybe that's changed a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. If you come to our precinct, you'll see there is so much going on at any given time. Got live DJs playing throughout the game, prior, post. We've got kids on the field. We've got rock climbing outside. We've got throwing ball comps. We've got so many things happening post, because it's hard to also entertain little kids to sit in a seat for that amount of time. You need to, I in some ways wish we had the old school stadiums where at least you had a grass hill, because then you can put the kids there and they can run around. It's tough to keep little kids in a seat for that long. And there's a lot of little kids there, but you see parents taking them. So we make sure we have breakout zones. So there's heaps for them to be doing throughout the game. And that's important to keep it, and to keep that vibe, the theatre of it going, and to bring the theatre to the field. It's great. The pumped up music, it really adds to the atmosphere.
No, it sure does. And in this chat, you talked about like making a decision from like data that you receive, etc. From your business experience, and now we're sitting here in 2025. There must be so much data. There's so much almost data overload when you get reports, etc. Are you looking at key points of data, or are you sort of like a bit of an old school going, I understand this, but the data shows this, but that's okay?
No, we listen to what our people tell us. The data is informed by our stakeholders. So that's really important. If we don't listen, you'll go out of business. So we really take that on board, and we'll tweak and adjust till we get it right. We can only control the controllables, right? There's certain things we can't touch, but the things that we can and we can enhance, we absolutely do. If it's access to car parking, if it's access to the gate, we're constantly working with the government and the council. How can we improve that? And, we get little wins along the way. Is it perfect? No, but does it get better every year? Yes, it does. So those things are critical to us. Are we catering for kids, like I spoke about? 100%. We can't affect always the offerings at the stadium, because we don't control the stadium. However, we give the feedback constantly to the stadium. We are their largest tenant. We try to make changes for our stakeholders. So, yeah, we absolutely listen all the time.
And then when it comes to being a club in an NRL, you've got master company doing initiatives as well. What sort of feedback do you get and two-way communication do you get with the NRL?
The NRL are really good to work with. They're doing an exceptional job. You can just see what they're doing now around expansion, growth of the game, viewer ratings. I mean, to be the number one sport in Australia in terms of viewing audience is pretty extraordinary where it's come from in a pretty short period of time. So I take my hat off to Peter V'landys and Andrew Abdo. And I can tell you right now, there's those two executives, you can call them, and if they don't take your call, they're back to you within an hour. They are quite extraordinary. They never don't take a call. They never don't listen. They're so approachable. And I think when you've got business partners like that, we're very fortunate. Extraordinary.
Absolutely. And in regards to they've tweaked some rule changes as well, like the 2-point field goal and the 40-20 over the golden point, etc. How much play do you have in that? Do you suggest some things every now and then, and do they just say, "Oh, thank you, take it on board"? Is it all up to them?
I stick in my lane of what I know, and if I start making those suggestions, God help us. So,
Yeah. Well, you're a fan, but you're a stakeholder as well. I mean, there must be
yeah, I'm a stakeholder, but
lots of
there's
different
so
ideas
many
and
other
feedback.
people out there with much more knowledge than me in that space, and if I start doing that, we're in a world of hurt.
Yeah, and then from a business point of view, when you had talked about sponsors as well, like getting businesses together and networking, how important is that networking and having that
Very
one
important.
similar kind of, yeah, I'm a sponsor, we should do some business together.
That happens regularly. That's really important. And, I'm happy to say that many of our sponsors all support each other and work together. They're a really tight group, which is fantastic. They've formed great friendships. We're all going away. A number of us are going away to the Warriors game in New Zealand in July. But yeah, we host them all together. We organise networking events outside of that. But that's critically important. So, sorry, I just saw it.
That's okay. And now I'm going to ask a couple of personal things about you, the person behind the ownership of the group. Are you always thinking about rugby league and football and business, etc., or do you switch off and go, right, I love a Jimmy Barnes concert or go to the beach or a good podcast?
No, I think you're always thinking about it because you're driven. You want to see it do better. You want to deliver it for everybody, and we will. I have absolutely no doubt about that. We absolutely will, and we're on our way to doing it. We're getting some really strong foundation pieces in. We've got a great board, great CEO, great coach. We're getting there. But no, you do think about that. And the only time I probably really switch off is when we go overseas. And that's really important because I think being in a different time zone, usually if there's a decision to be made, someone's made it because they couldn't wait the 12 hours or whatever. So it's kind of good.
So going overseas is almost like a digital detox. You're like, their day's my diet night and someone's taking care of it. We're all good here.
That ship sailed. So, yeah.
Except if you go to New Zealand. Right, with
exactly.
the ownership group, yes.
And I always love getting on the plane. I deliberately don't take the Wi-Fi because I think I just want to sit in this bubble and not hear or see anything for a period.
And then you turn your phone on and
No.
Now,
you know what I do? I catch up on all my emails. I hit send, dump them all, clear out my inbox, and then by the time you land, you go, bugger, everyone responded. I've filled it again.
Yes. Back again, this endless cycle. Are you a zero inbox person?
No, I wish I was.
I am, and it's tough. It's tough to keep up though. Like it almost feels like my time is like, reading or responding, and it's cathartic. But I'm like, there's another hour gone in a day, which potentially is kind of like, could I have used that more efficiently? So I toss and turn about it.
I've got a question for you. If you think back, say 30 years ago, 25 years ago, I don't know the exact date, how many letters a day would you have sat down and written?
Well, I would have been 14 or 15, so not many, but zero, probably.
Yeah, so how many letters, effectively, dear Beck, I'd like to, how many are you writing now in an email? Like you've got to think about your construct of the email, what the subject is, what you're responding to, and we're probably doing 40, 50 of those a day.
I'm going to my sent items on the 16th of May, which is Friday. Oh, we're into the 15s to 20s. Yeah.
There you go. And you've had to think about, does that sound right? Have I used the right term? I don't want to cause... Just think about where previous times we pick up the desk phone and have a chat, or we'd write a letter, then we had to post it. That'd take a week. Then you'd think about it, you'd write back, that'd take a week, and that decision would take 3 weeks, where now I email, and if you haven't come back to me within an hour, I ring you and I go, Chris, what'd you think of the email I sent you? You're like, ah!
Yeah. Someone said to me, well, my old boss said you can't milk a cow by sending an email. And I was like, that's an interesting one as well.
What did he say?
You can't milk a cow by sending an email. Like, pick up the phone. Like, pick up the phone and talk to someone. And I was like, oh, yeah. Yeah, and people are a bit hidden with the old, send an email, dear Beck, blah, blah, blah. But just, instead of like, hello, because they'll probably call you back. Now, if you're busy, leave a voicemail, but they'll probably call you back eventually. And you can actually get it. You're right. I don't know. I might have to start doing the old let the thousands thing. It got a little anxiety, though, like going, have I missed something? Have I missed something important? But maybe
I totally get what you're saying. I used to be a clear the inbox. I can't. And so now what I do is ones that I'm scared I'm going to miss or I just put the flag next to them and then I just sort my inbox by flags and then I go back to that. You know how you scan something, you're walking into something and you look at it and you go, oh, I've got to get onto that. So I'll just click flag and then I know I've got to go back to it.
So that's it's a red flag, or you color code
It's a
the
little
flags?
red flag, and then you can just sort your inbox by your little red flags.
Okay, and then everything else just goes into the cloud ether. Just
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
not important. Okay.
not important because
Well,
I don't
I got an
want
email back from you. That was pretty cool. I'm happy now. I made the cut.
my inbox has got 4,500 emails in it. I'm embarrassed to say. But I just think, and when I get some time, like I'll sort them and delete them. But really,
What
ring
about
me.
what about the LinkedIn direct messages, WhatsApp
Oh,
text messages, Facebook messages, email? Like, do you get? Do you kind
so
of
I
like?
don't do social media. I'm a very boring person. I don't do social media. I obviously have an account so I can stalk my kids, but I stalk my kids. I'll stalk the players just to see what's going on, and also, it's a good temperature gauge to watch. Also, the fan groups and whatever, and have a look what's going on. But in terms of that, yeah, I don't do anything about myself. LinkedIn, oh my goodness, I had that set up for the business with cars. That drives me mad. I don't engage with it. I'm not up to date. I think it says that I think my profile says I'm on the board of Racing Queensland.
You're
That's
not
my
on the board
profile.
of Racing Queensland.
Yeah, I am.
Oh well.
But that's all it says. It
Oh
doesn't.
right. Okay, that's all it says. Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
It doesn't talk about football or automotive, or it's pretty funny. So I really probably need to get into gear with that.
Oh, yeah, but there's lots of different types of. Speaking of your kids, you stalk them. Do you ever comment on them? Like, what are you doing? And they go, "It's Mum! Stop!"
I have done that. I have liked or loved something, and I'm like, oh, Mum, we just get off our page. And then I'm also one of those really bad parents where they're showing me something on Instagram of one of their mates, and they'll go, Mum, don't touch the screen. You're going to like it. And I've got, fat thumbs or whatever, and I'll accidentally like something, and then they go off their head. Like, I'm a total nuffy in that space.
And yeah, Mum, the embarrassing mum liking other people's friends' Instagram posts. Yeah, there you go. Anyway,
Yeah.
sport. Now let's get back on to sport. Your favourite? It's a tricky question, I reckon. Your favourite all-time sporting moment?
I think I've got two. Well, actually, can I have three? That's really cheating, isn't it?
I'll give you three as long as you respond to my emails. No, it's fine. I'll give you three. Right, done.
Okay.
Sold.
The swimming at the Sydney 2000 Olympics. Absolutely. Yep. That was just brilliant. I'll never forget that as long as I live. I was lucky. Last year was a big year of sport. Absolutely loved it. And we went to the Grand Prix in Monza, and Ferrari went first and second. And that was just extraordinary in terms of watching the passion of the Italian fans. You would think that they were going to take over the Italian flag and make it the Ferrari flag. The pride, I've never seen anything like it, where just red, a sea of red, and it was like they're running down the race circuit. Just I'm not kidding when I say thousands and thousands of people all singing, and it was extraordinary to see that.
Goosebump moment. You're still getting goosebumps talking about it.
Oh, I've never seen, and the videos, it was just unbelievable watching that. And just the passion of the people, like extraordinary, so proud. So I love that. And then my other top favourite was watching Curtis McGrath in the final take gold in the Paralympics last year in Paris, standing, screaming, cheering him on. And he'd had a tough lead in. His little baby was in hospital. It was the first time Rachel, his wife, hadn't joined him. He was co-captain of the team, had to arrive in Paris late, and he still got up and he won. And I thought, you are an extraordinary human being, Curtis McGrath. So I think he was embarrassed. He could hear us screaming from the sidelines, and I think we looked like the really embarrassing rallies that had turned up.
That's awesome. That's great. 3 scoreboard moments. All-time favourite sporting moments. Now we're going to talk about the scoreboard moment, which is a moment in your life which is a kind of describing like a sliding doors moment or a picture or something that happened in your life, and you're like, I remember that very, very vividly and very, very clearly. And from that moment, things changed a little bit.
I remember I'm someone that if you tell me I can't do something, that's probably the best thing you can tell me to make me then do it. So I think without giving too much away, I was told quite a few years ago that you will never succeed in attracting this particular franchise. Don't even bother. And I was like, really? Is that so? And I went away and I thought about it, and I thought, well, what have I got to lose? Time, a little bit of ego and a bit of skin off my knees if I get it wrong. So what? Have a crack. I'd much rather have a crack at something. Well, you know what? After a bit of perseverance and time, I think that was a changing doors moment for me. I know it sounds really underwhelming, but being told you can't do something or don't even bother, you're not even in the running, is enough to light the fire and think, yeah, and it's not even just so I can say I told you so. It's just a personal challenge that if I think you want something bad enough, you'll go after it and you'll throw out everything at getting it. And if you don't, what have you lost?
Yeah, that's some great advice. You know, I some of the other scoreboard moments have been rejection moments, or even kind of not. This was not a rejection moment. This is probably a rejection from their point of view, not point of view, but like not getting picked in a team or saying you're too small to do something or you're too slow. I remember Dale Morris, one of the AFL players, saying, "Oh, mate, you're too small or you're not fit enough, etc." And he's like, "Well, I'll show you," and you know, the rest is history, etc. So, I love that scoreboard moment. As part of my sort of funness in gamifying of this podcast, we do a little thing called the Scoreboard Scramble. And the Scoreboard Scramble is, I'm going to give you 15 seconds for this one, but the Scoreboard Scramble is you're going to have to spell a word backwards. Now, it correlates into the previous podcast, which is the favourite all-time sporting moment, which was with Scott Roth, the coach of the Tasmanian Jack Jumpers, where he said his favourite all-time sporting moment was when the Jack Jumpers won the NBL a couple of years into their expansion team, which is one of the all-time favourite moments. So you are going to have to spell the word Tasmania backwards, and I'm going to give you 15 seconds, and your time starts now.
Hang on. AINAMSAT.
Jackpot. You got it. You got it in about 10, I reckon. So you had about 5 seconds to spare. But maybe the use of props, I'll give you another second. So, but
you didn't give me rules around what.
No, you're right. I needed to give the guidelines, the rules correct, and I give you got the winner's ticket, right? Congratulations. AINAMSAT, Tasmania backwards. And now because
you know when we're talking, I thought you were going to give me Jack Jumpers, and I'd started spelling that backwards. So you threw me when you said Tasmania.
Tasmania could have been the Jack Jumpers as well. And now I've got 3 sporting moments for the next podcast for you. I've got the swimming, I've got Curtis, and I've got, what was the other one? I forget now. Oh,
the Monza Grand Prix.
That's right, the Grand Prix, the middle. You were there. That's right, indeed. So now, one final question. Some advice to people who are probably in their teens now. We're sitting in 2025, a different era when we were growing up. What's some advice to either someone that wants to be involved in sport from an administrational point of view or an investment point of view, etc., and or someone that potentially wants to play high-performance sport?
I don't want to, if it's okay with you, Chris, I don't know this is a sporting podcast. I don't want to narrow it down to sport.
Sure, go for it.
I actually just want to just say in general, have faith in yourself. I think what happens with people, all of us, myself included, we have self-doubt, and we've always got that little voice in the back of our head saying, you can't do that. Don't be ridiculous. You're not this, you're not good enough, you're not fast enough, you're not smart enough, whatever. And you've got the other voice saying, maybe I can. You know what? Have a go. I really believe in having a go. Have confidence in yourself. Believe in yourself. You've got to put the work in. You've got to do the research, etc. It doesn't get rid of that. But self-confidence is such an important thing. And look, I still get terrified. Like coming on this podcast this morning with you, I've been dreading it for the last 2 or 3 days because I hate talking about myself. I think I have nothing to talk about. And I get really nervous. And nervousness is probably a good thing. But then I tell myself that you can do this. You can do this. And I think and I watch it in my kids, we really need to have confidence in ourselves and back ourselves. So if you really want to do something, believe in it, go for it, but do your homework.
What a way to finish. Bec Frizelle, thank you so much for being a part of Scoreboard, the podcast, and sharing your story and sharing all the ups and downs of your life. Looking forward to following the progress, looking forward to following the progress of the Titans group as a whole and all the different codes, etc., and looking forward to keeping in touch.
Look forward to it, Chris. Thanks so much for having me on.